this evening. When I told Ben, he said, would you come down and speak to us? And I said, well, you know, there's a lot going on in the pro-life arena right now. I don't know where to start. And he said, well, start as close to the end as possible. So I'm going to keep it brief. I want to keep it brief. But I want to talk, whenever I talk about the pro-life issue, I have to start with, why are we here? Why are we pro-life? We're pro-life not because of the politics. We're pro-life because we know that life begins at the moment of conception. There is no doctor on earth, there is no theologian, there is no attorney, there is no judge on earth that can argue with that scientific fact that life begins at the moment of conception. Every single one of us. That was the beginning of our journey in this world. However, as we went through the stages of life, from officially being a zygote, to being an embryo, to being a fetus, to being an infant, to being a toddler, to being an adolescent, to being an adult, to being a senior, all of those were stages in our lives, right? We go through stages in our lives. One of those stages was we were in the womb, first a zygote, and then we were called and the people on the other side of this issue never call it a baby. We all call that a baby, right? No mom ever came home from the doctor and said, guess what, everybody? We're having a fetus. No, she says we're having a baby. And then throughout the rest of the pregnancy, what do we say? Do you have a name for your baby yet? How far along is your baby now? Do you know the gender of your baby? Right? It's a baby because it is a child. It's a human being. It's a baby. But the other side doesn't say that. They demean that child in the womb as nothing. Because if it's nothing, killing that nothing is okay. Right? I don't have time to describe them, and given the fact that you're still eating, I wouldn't. But the different types of abortion, when I give talks and describe what happens in the different types of abortion, a saline abortion, it's a salt poisoning abortion, a dismemberment abortion, a suction abortion, these things just sound horrendous because they are horrendous. They're barbaric. They're probably the worst things that one human being can do to another human being. And it happens, on average, every 30 seconds in America. Every 30 seconds. A little innocent child who never hurt anybody is dismembered in this country, legally. And we call that the freedom of choice. Missouri Right to Life is an organization, it's the oldest and largest pro-life organization in the state of Missouri. And we do a number of things. We do basically three things. We educate, we elect pro-life legislators, and we try to help pass pro-life legislation. And they're all interconnected. The first thing that we do is educate people. We try to educate people on the issue, about when life begins, about what happens in abortion. When people hear an abortion described, they cower and go, ooh, they do that? I didn't know they did that. Do they really do that? Yes, they do it. And it's not talked about in polite company. But when we talk about that, people will come up afterwards and say, you know, when I came in here this afternoon, I considered myself pro-choice. When I heard what happens in abortions, I was shocked. I didn't know. I didn't know there were 6 or 7 or 8 different types of abortions. I didn't know that. And when people hear the truth sets them free. So that's what we do. We educate people on the life issue so that they are then compelled to want to seek out pro-life legislators to vote for, right? So then we help you, through our endorsements, elect pro-life legislators to send to Jefferson City and to send to Washington, D.C. And then the next step of that is, we've sent those legislators there, let's pass some pro-life laws. Let's save lives of innocent babies. Let's save the moms and dads from the horrid consequences of abortion in their lives. And then we work with the legislators to pass pro-life legislation. Matter of fact, Jerry Meters is here. Jerry is our legislative director, and he's got a booth in the back. If you have any questions on the life issue afterwards, we're going to be in the back there, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. And finally, I want to say that because of those three things, because we worked our guts out to help educate people, we worked our guts out to be able to elect pro-life legislators. Many of them are here tonight, by the way. And then we work with them to be able to write and pass pro-life legislation. And as has been mentioned a couple of times already, HB 126 was passed yesterday. It is the most historic pro-life bill, not in just the state of Missouri, but in the United States of America. That bill has a heartbeat bill that bans abortion after 8 weeks. If that gets struck down, there's a ban at 14 weeks. And if that gets struck down, a ban at 18 weeks. There's also a second parent notification part of that bill. There's an informed consent that if somebody goes out of our state to have an abortion, they're bound by the laws of the state of Missouri to be able to hear about the child in their womb. There's a malpractice insurance, an increase in malpractice insurance. These guys are getting by with hardly any malpractice insurance. There's a tax credits for donating to pregnancy resource centers now with no caps. There's going to be a ban on abortions if Roe versus Wade gets overturned. It will be illegal to perform abortions in Missouri if Roe versus Wade gets overturned. And there's a ban on killing children in the womb because of their race or because of their gender. Don't think that China's the only one that aborts just girls. It's happening here too. And there's a ban on Down syndrome abortions. The country of Iceland said that they have eradicated Down syndrome in their country. No, they haven't. They killed everybody who had it. We're going to make that illegal in the state of Missouri because of people like you, because of groups like this, because of the Republican Party that has stood up and passed this historic legislation. You are the ones that put them there. You are the ones that encouraged them. And look what we have because of what you have done. So thank you so much for all that you do for life, and God bless you.
Thank you, Steve. By the way, did you enjoy your dinner this evening? Miss Linda and company, you do it again. I mean, phenomenal. How does an auditor help his wife sleep? He tells her about his workday. Is it better? I try one more, like, no. Hey, I want to read this. I did a Google search on our next guest. Everybody does Google, right? I did a Google on our next guest and was shocked to see that his net worth was $20 million. After all, he had earned, he deserved it because after all, he earned 2 degrees from the University of Missouri by age 20. While in law school, he bought the family farm, became a licensed real estate agent, and started his own business. So I wasn't really surprised to find out that his annual salary was $5 million a year, which isn't bad for a guy from Salem, Missouri. Until I read he was 7 feet tall and played for the National Basketball Association for 10 years. I had the wrong damn Jason Smith. It's getting better, Gary. But that's what Google will do for you. Don't believe everything you read. You have to be 25 years old to run for the state office to the House of Representatives. Am I right, Mr. Smith? Jason did that. He became the youngest Missouri state representative at the time, and then endured 3 elections in 3 years to get reelected. Is that all? I bet it wasn't fun. 3 times in 3 years to get elected. So when Congresswoman Joanne Emerson resigned her office, Mr. Smith decided to go to Washington. Yeah, I bet he's never heard that before. There were, how many Republicans were running for that job? 20? A lot. 27, I think. 27. People that you might remember, Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder, former U.S. Representative Wendell Bailey, former Senator Jason Crowell, former Treasurer Sarah Stillman, Senator Wayne Wallingford, just to name a few. Mr. Smith was the last man standing. Oh, and he beat the Democrat with 67% of the vote. And that was the 47th consecutive U.S. House race in Missouri where the Democrats failed to pick up a Republican-held seat dating back to 1994, which was the second longest drought in the nation for the Dems. Jason is going to turn 39 years old next month. And I would say he's done a pretty darn good job in his first 38 years, even though he's not 7 feet tall. Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Jason Smith.
Thank you, Louie. When you start talking about $20 million net worth, I'm like, I got maybe $20 million worth of ants on my farm, but definitely not $20 million. There's a lot of Jason Smiths out there. You Google, you can find some awful stuff about you that's really not even your Google search. So I would just recommend to never Google, and then life is a whole lot better for you. It's amazing what you all are doing here in San Francisco County. In almost the roughly 6 years that I've had the opportunity to represent this county, I have seen it change so drastically politically. And it's because of the hard work of so many people in this room and so many people in this community. When I was a state rep, I can remember just trying to find candidates to run in San Francisco County was really difficult with Kevin Engler. But you know what? The tables have turned. The values that we have in San Francisco County have not changed. They've stayed the same. We're conservatives. Our values haven't changed. It's just people are starting to realize that the party that they thought that they were a part of, there's no way they can be a part of that party. The folks I serve with in Washington, D.C., especially in this freshman class of House members, folks, they're not the party that a lot of your grandparents was a part of. And even some of your parents. They're not the party that Harry S. Truman or John F. Kennedy or Bill Clinton, even for that matter. When you look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Omar or Tlaib, they make Nancy Pelosi look like a conservative. And we all know Nancy Pelosi's no conservative.
Come on.
She's a San Francisco liberal Democrat, but she's to the right of the majority of the members of her party in the House of Representatives. There are very, very few people in San Francisco County that shares the values of Omar or AOC or Tlaib, but that is the new Democrat Socialist Party. It is. Look at the 22, 23, 24, maybe someone else announced while we were in here that's running for president. On their side, they can't get far enough to the left. Bernie Sanders, just in the last couple weeks, said that he wants to allow Boston terrorists to vote. Elizabeth Warren, just in the last week or so, said, doesn't matter, there wasn't anything in the Mueller report. We still need to impeach Donald Trump as president. They're not rational. This is who I'm not working with. This is who I'm pushing back and fighting with. The last 135 days serving in the House of Representatives under a Nancy Pelosi speakership, a Nancy Pelosi majority, it's been awful. It's been awful. Yesterday, a bill passed off of the House floor called the Equality Act. Does a lot of awful stuff. A lot of awful stuff. If you can't figure out what sexual identity you want to have, you can change it from day to day. If you're a guy who wants to play women's sports, just say you're a woman. And now you're protected under that bill. Just straight out what it does. I'm just calling it for what exactly it does. The stuff that they continue to push down our throats is absurd. Think about the first 2 years of a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican president named Donald Trump. What happened in those first 2 years was some of the 2 most successful years that we have seen in a long time in our nation. More regulations were taken off the books in those 2 years than ever before in the history of this country. Regulations that were taken off by the president by executive order, but also regulations taken off by Congress actually doing their job and removing them from the code. That's huge. Over 1,000 pages. For the first time in 31 years, we lowered the tax code. I helped write that bill. I'm one of 24 people. When you look up the Tax Cut and Jobs Act from December 2017, the third name was on the bill that wrote it. When I hear Nancy Pelosi say that it was crumbs, let me tell you how it helps people in our congressional district. In our congressional district, the average family of 4 makes $40,000 a year. $40,000 a year. Under the new Tax Cut and Jobs Act, we doubled the standard deduction from $12,000 to $24,000. My piece of legislation, which is with doubling the child tax credit, went from $1,000 to $2,000 for every child. Just those 2 provisions alone would allow any family of 4 that makes $55,000 or less a year, their share in federal taxes would be 0. Before that bill, a family of 4 would have to make less than $28,000 a year. But Nancy Pelosi said that was crumbs. You know how many people that helped in our district? A lot of people. When the door greeter at Walmart in Salem, Missouri tells me the Tax Cut and Jobs Act allowed me to pay my back rent, that's real. Or other folks, when a young lady in Advance, Missouri said, I was able to pay my kids' student loans. That's huge. That's huge. These were just a few items that happened. Also, when the president took office, it was estimated there were 35,000 ISIS warfighters. 35,000 ISIS warfighters. Now it's estimated there's less than 1,000 in the world. That is huge. In the past, we were used to a president that wouldn't pay attention when countries crossed a red line. Our president's different. And the world knows that. And I'm thankful for that. But the last 135 days, with a Democrat majority House, we haven't passed anything good. All we've been able to do is to try to stop bad stuff from moving on. And thank goodness we have the United States Senate that is blocking and tackling along the way. We got to win back this House. I'm working every day recruiting great conservative candidates all over this country. Because I know that the best way that we can shape policy is if we reshape the House of Representatives. Do you know, I serve as conference secretary. It's one of 6 elected leaderships amongst Republicans in all of the House of Representatives. And so by being conference secretary, you get to have an office in the Capitol. Or you used to be able to have an office in the Capitol. I served in the last leadership team where I did have an office in the Capitol. There's only 3 of us that was in the House leadership team when we were in the majority. It was Kevin McCarthy, Steve Scalise, and myself, who are also now in the leadership team. They got to keep their offices. Nancy Pelosi kicked me out of my office. But guess what? I'm going to kick her out of her office. So, because it is what's necessary for our values to be represented in Washington, D.C. And it is necessary that we do everything in our power to make sure that this coming election, we re-elect our president, Donald Trump, in 2020. You know, I was with the president on Thursday in the Rose Garden and got to have a very good conversation with him. He of course, released his immigration policy, which is pretty good. Pretty good. Think about this. You have candidates running for President of the United States right now that are so opposed to securing our southern border. They're not only opposed to building a wall or having barriers, they believe that the existing barriers, which are very inadequate, should be taken down because they're immoral. This is what they're pushing. Folks, it's awful. We've had just in the last 90 days people apprehended from the southern border that have came from more than 50 different countries, including Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Iran. Is that in South America? Why are they crossing? They know that it's a porous border. It's about national security. You all don't let anyone that wants to just come into your house. You know who comes into your house. You all are a friendly bunch of people. So you let people come in. We are the friendliest nation in the world. More than 1.1 million immigrants are let in a year. More than any other country in the world already. We just want to know who's coming in so that we can protect ourselves. The president has an amazing quote that says, we don't build walls because we hate the people on the outside. We build walls because we love the people on the inside. And that's why we want a secure border. That's why the president's fighting for this. I'll tell you, folks, when you're watching the news, don't believe everything you're seeing. Our president is one of the strongest leaders I've ever worked with. He's an incredible individual. And he's not like what you see on TV. He's an incredible human being that cares so much about our area. The night of the State of the Union, he asked me to walk with him. Every year I've been able to walk with him to come into the State of the Union. And we were standing outside the doors this year. And you want to know what he's talking about before he comes and gives the best speech I've ever heard him give in his entire life. Did you all watch the State of the Union speech this year? It was the absolute best he's ever given. But we're outside those doors, and he's talking about our congressional district. He could be talking about anything else, but he's talking about how he thought that his rally in Cape Girardeau the night before the election was the best rally that he had ever participated in. He was right. It was the best. Was anyone in this room at the rally? It was some good stuff. But he's also like, when can I come back? And I'm like, anytime, Mr. President. He's like, well, who's up for United States Senate? It's not up this year. But there's a congressman that will be up, and you can come help him. But he loves Missouri. He doesn't view our state as flyover country. He views our state as the heart of America. Because guess what? We are. We are what the red, white, and blue is all about. This election is so, so crucial. So crucial. Almost every one of our statewide office holders are up on the ballot in 2020. From our wonderful governor, who's doing an incredible job, Mike Parson, to our lieutenant governor, who could be anywhere tonight. But guess what? He's right here in San Francisco County. and that's Mike Kehoe. We got to make sure we re-elect our governor, our lieutenant governor. Our state treasurer was going to be here tonight, Scott Fitzpatrick, but he couldn't come because they're having some really bad weather on the west side of this congressional district. In fact, a tornado in one area. Jay Ashcroft, our Secretary of State's on the ballot. And Eric Schmidt, our Attorney General. We got to get these folks re-elected. And let me tell you, here in San Francisco County, you all have done, first off, I want to say thank you so much for always having my back here in San Francisco County. 65% this last election. When people told me when I was running the first time, you'll be lucky if you can break even in San Francisco County, you all have helped us so very much. And it's an honor, a kid from Salem, to be serving in the halls of Washington, D.C., fighting for everything that my family for 7 generations have believed in this congressional district. So I thank you for that. But I also thank you. The way that we can be effective public servants is you have other effective public servants that serve with you. Your state lawmakers right here, Elaine Gannon, she's from Bismarck, but up in Jefferson County. Del Wright, a newbie. Man, you don't know he's a newbie. I watch what they're doing in Jefferson City. This guy, you couldn't have picked anyone better. You couldn't have found anyone stronger, and anyone who believes in your values anymore. And he's someone that's very easy to work with. Gary Romine. Man, I even got to serve with Gary Romine. Great state senator. You know what? He didn't always care what other people in Jefferson City cared about, but he always cared about what the folks in San Francisco County and his congressional district cared about, and he didn't waver. He always represented this district. Sometimes it got some people upset. That's okay. We like that, right, Gary?
Amen.
That's right. Mike Henderson. Wow. This is his second term, and I haven't found anyone that doesn't like you. That's tough in politics. I can show you a lot of people who don't like me, but Mike is a good legislator and a strong fighter. You have some former state lawmakers here that I served with. Linda Black, Kevin Engler. I mean, these are troopers. Great people. We got to get all these folks reelected. And the way that we do it is we make sure that people understand our values and understand the values that the Democrat Socialists stand for. Think about this, the value of the party of the Green New Deal. The two top priorities in the House of Representatives, guess what they are? The Green New Deal and universal health care. They want to kick 185 million people off of their health insurance. 185 million. Government-controlled health care. Those two items alone, you know what the price tag is? Over $120 trillion. They're two priority pieces of legislation. Our country, since its founding, has created over $21 trillion in debt. They're just wanting to pass two pieces of legislation that would be over $120 trillion. You want to know how much that is? Because, I mean, trillions of dollars is a lot of money. But $120 trillion means there's 320 plus million Americans. That means every penny that every person in this room has in their pocket, and every penny that every one of the 320 million Americans in this country, every penny of every American. But yet you would still be short another $20+ trillion. Just for 2 pieces of legislation they've offered. They're radical. They have no idea how to pay for anything. The only thing that unifies their party right now is their obsession to investigate Donald Trump and not to legislate for the hardworking Americans and the American public. Folks, we just got to make sure that the rest of the country sees what I see every day, and that is people that do not fit and represent our way of life. And they don't represent America. That's not America. The land of the free, the home of the brave. And so we have to be active. We have to stay strong. Whether it's social media, whether it's talking to your friends and neighbors, constantly talk to them and let them know what's going on. Educate them. But work hard. And don't allow yourself to get disappointed by what you may see on TV. For the longest time, I heard people say that, oh, when this Mueller report comes out, we're going to be, oh, I don't know. Everything I read, I kept telling people, there's nothing. There's nothing. And the Mueller report showed that there was nothing. But guess what? As soon as the week went by, the chairman of my committee on Ways and Means wants to get the president's tax returns. We got to try to find something. First time in the history of our country. First time in the history of our country. You have the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee going after the President of the United States tax returns. Because they want to destroy it. The last time the tax returns were made political, someone should have went to prison. And that was during President Obama and his IRS lady, when she was going after conservative organizations. She should have went to prison. This is uncalled for. The president, just in the last 4 years alone, has produced more than 400 pages of financial records, which by law he had to produce. That's more than any president in recent history. But still, let's do his tax returns. Let's give it up, and let's fight for the values of America. And if we do that, that's how we win. And so, I'm asking you all to make sure that we cross that finish line in 2020 by helping re-elect Donald Trump president and helping sweep across the board. It is an honor and pleasure to be your congressman. I mean, I come from where my dad was an auto mechanic and a pastor in Salem, and my mother worked on the assembly line at Briggs and Stratton. They really don't even, I guess sometimes they're like, what do you do? You know, why were you on TV? But they know that this job is all about trying to protect our way of life. And I need your help. I need to make sure that we send these people back to Jefferson City, and I need to make sure that Donald Trump's in the White House. So get out there, get your friends to vote, your friends that are Democrats. The election should be on Wednesday, but just kidding. But we just got to make sure we get our people out there. It's an honor to serve as your congressman. It's an honor to be your friend, and it's an honor to represent this Republican county of San Francisco County. Thank you all very much, and God bless you.
Sometime we're going to have Jason back to tell us a story about when he was on Air Force One with the president, and the president said, call your mom. Just call your mom here from Air Force One. She wasn't too impressed, was she? She hung up. What the hell? Aren't you supposed to be plowing the upper 40 or something? Mike Henderson, come on down.
Thank you, Lou. I get to introduce our next special speaker that we have tonight, and I want to tell him first of all, it's Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. Excuse me. And let me tell you up front, I did not Google you. I did not look through there and try to see some of the things on there. But I want to introduce a man that is our 48th Lieutenant Governor, two-term senator, served the 6th district, was majority floor leader, been referred to in the Missouri Times as Mr. Missouri because he cares so much about the people of Missouri, cares about the state of Missouri. A gentleman who has made a lifetime of trying to help the people of Missouri, a small business owner himself, and he's still trying to make things for the people of Missouri better. I want to introduce our Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Mike Kehoe.
Thank you. That's very, very kind. Thank you so much, Representative. It's good to be with you guys tonight. Louis, when I walked in, I said, "You have a voice for radio." And he said, "Well, I'm on the radio sometimes." So you have a day job too, so that's great. Thank you for having me here. We're just been around southeast Missouri today, as Jason said. I just want to give a shameless plug for the facility we saw this morning down in Perryville. I mean, and many of you in this room tonight told me that they have seen that, the Vietnam Wall. It is absolutely unbelievable, and it is just miles, minutes away from where you're sitting here. So tell your friends and neighbors, because we need to spread the word on that asset. That's fantastic. Well, I'm happy to be here with so many friends that I've gotten to know over the last several years. Obviously, I'm happy to be here with your state representatives who do a fantastic job, as Jason and others have said already. No need to repeat that, but Gary Romine and I go back several years from when Gary first ran for Senate. I think I even knew him back when he worked for Mike Gibbons, possibly. So he's been around a long time. He has done a fantastic job for you in the Senate. We work together, and only Gary knows what this is, right, Gary?
I know what that is.
He knows what that is. That's where I keep all my notes on paper plates. So whenever Gary had bills, he'd always come to me as majority leader and say, "I need one more bill on that paper plate." And so he knew how to work it. But Gary has done a fantastic job for you, and it's been a pleasure to serve with you in the state Senate. Now, just so you know, when he's in Jefferson City, he has no crutches, no wheelchair. So I don't know what kind of sympathy he's doing when he gets here, but he's putting it on. But he's been a real trooper going through the Senate, especially with his injury representing you. And I just want to tell you how fortunate you are to have a guy like Gary Romine. And I'll tell you, the reason I'm here tonight, there are multiple reasons, but several months ago, my phone rings, and it's, I never know whether to answer Kevin Engler's calls or not. And so Kevin was in the Senate with me for the first 2 years I was there, and when I was running for office as just a lowly car dealer, didn't know how politics worked, the one guy who was always helping me, always calling, "What can I do to help you with?" was then Senator Kevin Engler. And I knew Kevin from before. We worked on projects together when I was on the Highway Commission. And Kevin has been a great friend to me, and he and his wife, Chris, have several wonderful kids. One of them, Joe, is in a very big position at the state capitol. So, Kevin, thank you so much for what you've done for me over the years. I appreciate everything that you've always been very kind to. I'll tell you, I wanted to tell the Air Force One story about Jason Smother because I'm not going to tell it because I have a better one, actually. It's better than your jokes, too, Louie. So, I actually got to meet Jason's mother in Dent County. This is my 27th kind of Lincoln Day-ish dinner, so I'm not sure what number that was. But I verified the phone story on Air Force One. Jason is doing a fantastic job, and it's unbelievable to me when you get around somebody, because everybody, I'm still starstruck when I see or hear Donald Trump, and I'll tell you a story about that in a little bit. But here's a guy who's with them all the time, and he's your congressman. They're not like he calls them because he needs help in Congress. They're friends. And it's unbelievable what a relationship we have built in Missouri with our congressional delegation, but specifically with Jason and his relationship with the president. And we were comparing notes on Lincoln Days. I think he's been to all of them except for 2 or a couple of, sometimes they just layer on top of each other. He was with me this morning in Perryville. He was with me in the Veterans Tent at the Cape Girardeau Air Show today. You are absolutely fortunate to have Jason Smith as your congressman, and I'm fortunate to have him as a friend. So thank you. I thought I'd just do a couple things real quick tonight because I know Louis said we watch Cardinal game, but I just tell you a little bit about myself. Some of you, this is retread if you were at the breakfast a few weeks ago down the road here, and a little bit about session, and then a little bit about 2020, as Jason mentioned, and how this room plays an important role. This is an incredible crowd. I go to a lot of these types of events, and to have a crowd like this on a Saturday night when everybody's busy and the beautiful weather outside is just fantastic. So it's wonderful for you guys to be here, and it really does mean a lot to me. I am originally from North St. Louis City, so I'm the youngest of 6 kids. My dad left when I was a year old. I never met him. My mom's mission was to raise those 6 kids. I was the toughest one, apparently, she said. And so we grew up in a very humble household in North City, St. Louis. And what we learned from my mother was what most mothers and fathers, in your cases maybe, teach is just how to work hard. My mom was not educated. All she knew was how to work. She held 3 jobs, and all of us worked. We gave our checks to her. We thought that was the way we were supposed to do it until I got into high school and found out somebody was actually keeping their check, and then I found my mom was stealing from me. But my mom's a wonderful person. She is my personal life hero, and she was responsible for me. But she moved along to where we had a family friend. Many of you will recognize this name in the car business, and I know we're across the street from Sism World here. But Dave Sinclair, who is a Ford dealer in South County, St. Louis, took me under his wing when I was 15 years old. I started washing cars for him and worked my way up through the dealership. He was my mentor, my male mentor in life, and did a lot for me and just really helped me out. He was the reason that I went from washing cars to selling cars to eventually being able to have my own Ford and Lincoln dealership in Jefferson City. So Mr. Sinclair was a huge influence on my life, and I know Karen Farrow, who's here, a huge influence on her as well. And along the way, his daughters introduced me to a girl 30 years ago. And if Claudia was here, and some of you met my wife at an event we had at the Capitol a few weeks ago, I always tell everybody we've been married 10 happy years, 30 total. And so for those of you who don't get it, Gary, you just add that up. So it's 10 plus 20. Okay, it doesn't go over well here. She doesn't like that joke either. But I met my wife. We met on a blind date through the Sinclair kids, mutual friends of ours. We dated 3 weeks and we got engaged. I always tell people I'm very busy, so I had a lot going on. And that's almost been 30 years ago. So about the same time I moved to Jefferson City, with the help of Mr. Sinclair, I got a Ford and Lincoln Mercury dealership there. I met my wife. We got married. We now have 4 children, ages 19 to 27, and I too, we talked a lot about the heartbeat bill. I always talk about the miracle of life and how good it is for us to have those 4 kids and how unbelievable it was to have that. But I will tell you, many of you in this room have experienced this. My wife and I have experienced an even better miracle, and that is when the 4th child moved out of the house last August. And so we went through the whole gamut from sadness to happiness, and so we're happy to have those kids out in school and work in various stages of life, and we've been very blessed to let you know how that works. But so we operate a dealership, very much family business, about 100 employees. For a long time, Governor Blunt asked me to be on the Highway Commission back in 2005. First exposure with St. Francis County and areas around here through projects she had going on in this area. Got a little bit interested in politics. Term limits brought an end to a friend of mine named Carl Bogle that Kevin served with, who termed out in 2010. I ran for state senate, and then I ran again in 2014. I was fortunate enough to win both of those elections, and as was mentioned, the last 3 years I was in the Senate, I was fortunate enough to serve as your majority leader. So Senate majority leader, and I was term limited out. I was good with that. We have a beef cattle farm down in Phelps County. Jason would come there sometime. It's one of his counties. He refuses to come to my farm. I appreciate that, Jason. I guess if I had Air Force One, he'd probably come. But he's not been invited, he says. His mother has been now. So we are ready to go back on the farm. I still sell cars a little bit, so there's always something to keep me busy. And Governor Parson called me in June of last summer and said, hey, I need some help. He had just been appointed governor. Mike and I worked together very closely in the Senate. We worked together when he ran for lieutenant governor. I'm very happy that we have Mike Parson where he is. And so he asked me to be lieutenant governor, and that was my wife's call and relationship of her saying yes was the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. But Governor Parson call is the most humbling thing that's ever happened to me. If you saw where I grew up in North City, St. Louis, and moved, 57 years later to see where I am at the state capitol, it's unbelievable. It's something that every day can't still believe that I'm in this position. So I don't take that for granted, and I love getting out and meeting people and finding out what this is all about. But I'll tell you a funny story. My mom is 91, and so the governor said, I'm going to make all the arrangements I can for your mom to come because he knows how important she is to our family. And I said, well, Governor, she's in a wheelchair. She's going, no, she's going to use the governor's elevator. We're going to have the security detail pick her up. So I went to the nursing home. You don't tell 91-year-old ladies too much in advance because they want to know if their hair's right and they got the right clothes and all that stuff. So I went the morning of. Said, Mom, I got this all lined up. We're going to get your hair done. You're going to go for a ride in the van. We're going to take you down to the Capitol. The governor's asked me to be lieutenant governor. And she said, oh, that's nice. And then she looked at me and said, why did he pick you? So, whenever you think you can't be humbled, your mother can humble you just like that. So we've hit the ground running since June. Governor Parson has been all over the state. I have tried to be all over the state. My wife is always asking me, where are you? Sometimes she travels, sometimes night. Tonight she said, remind me where you are again. And I was just driving down the outer road. I said, well, apparently I'm at a Jason Smith fundraiser. There's so many signs outside. If I had a big staff like a congressman, I'd have a lot of signs out too, but maybe next year. We are traveling, we are moving around. I've been through this community in different places in between many times, and we are not going to stop. And I want to tell you a little bit about Lieutenant Governor's office and what we think we got through the session, or what we know we got through the session. So if you don't know what Lieutenant Governor does, you join 98% of Missourians. Most people do not know what the Lieutenant Governor does. I told Parson, it always gave him a little bit of a complex, as people didn't know exactly, Governor Parson, what Lieutenant Governor's office does. But the best way I can describe it to you is that back in, I think, August, on one of the many trips the President made to our state to help us win a successful U.S. Senate seat, we had rehearsal of the President coming off the plane. The Governor's going to greet him. He's going to introduce Teresa Parson, his wife, and then he's going to introduce me. And it's very staged and sanitized, and we're there early, and we're waiting. Air Force One, stairs come, everything. President comes down off the plane, but what they didn't know is Ivanka was traveling with him. So when Mike Parson meets the President, he introduces his wife, and then immediately he goes and starts talking to Ivanka, and I can't blame the man for this. And so this awkward moment comes when the President is staring at me, and he's got, card deal, I put my hand out. Mr. President, I'm Mike Kehoe, I'm the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Missouri. And he goes, oh, it's great to meet you. He said, what does a Lieutenant Governor do anyway? So I told him we're kind of like Vice President, we do whatever y'all tell us to do. So Lieutenant Governor's office, number one, a responsibility when we're not in session, which we just finished, an incredibly great session. This responsibility is work with the Veterans Commission. We did 2 different veterans events today. I try to do that as my primary job, is what I try to focus on the most in the Lieutenant Governor's office. And Mike Parson really did a good job of kind of building that relationship up with the veterans community and our Veterans Commission, our 7 veterans homes. So we spent a lot of time working with veterans. This year we passed a bill, as a matter of fact, Senate Bill 306, which is Wayne Wallingford and David Sater down in southwest Missouri, that has an incredible amount of benefits for veterans' families and makes Missouri a little bit more friendly state for veterans as they get deployed here and how their kids can get in-state tuition, et cetera. So we're trying to become a very friendly veteran state. Missouri is home to 490,000 veterans, about the 3rd most in the United States. And we want to make sure that we make a great state and a great opportunity for them. And we, quite frankly, take care of our heroes, the men and ladies who enable us to stand here today in this room. And so that's something I take very seriously. And let me tell you, if you ever want to just be brought down to earth, go to any veterans home, because in 10 seconds, those guys will tell you exactly what's on their mind, and there is no filter. And so it's a great experience. Tourism is the other job that we do in the Lieutenant Governor's office. Missouri's tourism industry is our 2nd industry. Agriculture clearly is number 1. In 2018, tourism generated $17 billion impact to our state's economy. We brought 42 million visitors into the Show Me State in just 2018. And it employs over 301,000 Missourians. So tourism is a huge piece of what Missouri's economy is all about. This year, several different good things for tourism in the budget as far as matching funds for various communities to be able to match their tourism efforts all across the state. But a very good bill that just passed on the last day, in my opinion, and I know there's some controversy about it, but the biggest thing that we have with a lot of even the small family-owned tourism businesses is a school start date. And it is emotional. There are people who feel very much about local control. The school district should be able to set that. And we've supported your representatives and senators, and me, and when I was in the Senate, we've always supported local control. But being able to affix a school start date that the tourism industry understands when schools can start means the world to some of these family businesses. So we were able to set that date this year. It's 14 days before Labor Day. It's about a 2-day difference on average to most different school districts, so it's not dramatic. But it gives certainty to the tourism industry, and we're really happy to see that get across the finish line. We also work on a program called Buy Missouri. Governor Parsons started as Lieutenant Governor. Buy Missouri program just identifies companies all across the state that make products that Missourians can buy the governor, and I feel very strongly that if we can keep Missouri's tax dollars within our state, that's the best impact we can have on our economy. We just crossed 240 Buy Missouri companies, and for Jason and others who have heard me give this speech many times, you can hear that number growing, because I think our first Lincoln Day we're at about 221. So we're adding Buy Missouri companies every day. BuyMissouri.net is our website. You can buy anything there from windows if you're remodeling your house, to toolboxes for your shop, to any kind of consumable you can imagine. We'd like you to give Missouri companies an opportunity to take a look at that. I know that Treasurer Fitzpatrick, they talked about it. He sent me a screenshot. So Scott flies everywhere. He's a great pilot, and I actually did a fly around with him about 2 weeks ago. We promoted Buy Missouri in his program, Missouri First. The treasurer does a great job. He's been to a ton of Lincoln Days. I know he's very sorry he couldn't be here, but he was in Kansas City for a family graduation, and he sent me a screenshot of the radar. And just so you know, west of here, from here, almost all the way to the Kansas border, it's just a solid green blob. He's the father of 2, and I said, do not fly in that plane. I will let people know that you want it to be here. So he is doing a great job, and we usually tag team with these events. So I can tell you everything about his story, as probably Jason could too, because we've been to enough of them, but trust me, he's doing a great job as an appointee. He, Eric Schmidt, and I are all in that small fraternity of governor appointees. So we work together very well. So last but not least, just a couple of things about the session as far as the governor's priorities. Several people talked about it. Gary Romine and others were very supportive. Obviously, we talked about the heartbeat bill, #1 priority we should do, and that was fantastic. But the governor's priorities of workforce development, we were able to pass an incredible economic development bill that just does what it sounds like. It lends itself. People were calling it the GM bill because GM wants to expand their plant in Wentzville. And when people asked me about that, I said, I didn't even know General Motors existed. But that was a joke, so I'm a Ford dealer. But they're going to spend up to $1 billion in Wentzville, Missouri. So it wasn't really the GM bill. There was incentives within it that would help them if they decide to stay here and continue to have those 3,500 jobs. But we also had other items in there, like Gary mentioned, Fast Start, who's been a big champion of retraining adults who have been in one skill set or job, or maybe none. Giving them some life skills to get into a workforce for a manufacturer or a company or an industry that's close to them. It's very important to us. We were able to pass that bill, so that's a fantastic priority to the governor we were able to pass. The other thing that's very close to my heart is infrastructure development. There's multiple pieces to infrastructure, right? But the two that most people think about, one is roads and bridges, and so everybody knows what that means to our economy in our state. We are sorely underfunded in our road and bridge program for MoDOT, and the governor was able to propose a bonding program that would accelerate 250 of our worst bridges up to get built very, very quickly, freeing up some other money to go back into what they call the STIP, which even provides more projects for communities all across the state. That bill also passed, so we were happy to get that infrastructure bill piece. Also part of the infrastructure, over 50% of Missourians do not have access to high-speed internet. And as a father of 4 kids, when they come to our farm is the last house on the gravel road. And so other people might have that same experience. And of course, we just got electric not too long ago. So getting high-speed internet there has not happened. And the kids like, we're not coming down there, Dad, you don't have internet, which I'm, great. That's why I like to go there. But the governor plugged the hole. We were successful enough to get several grants from the federal government. Missouri was one of the best grant recipients of internet access deployment funds several months ago. The governor backfilled that with another $5 million in our budget to deploy high-speed internet. We have 13 public school districts that don't have high-speed internet. So being able to get high-speed internet across our state for economic development reasons, these companies are talking about keeping here and wanting to grow here. We need to make sure we're robust for them, but also for our young people. So we had a very good session. A lot of the governor's priorities, a lot of your priorities were passed. We didn't pass too much as a conservative, and I don't like to see too many laws passed, so that's a good thing. But I just wanted to spend the last few minutes talking about the impact that the group in this room has on our state and on our elections. You know, Jason talked about the president's not coming back because we don't have a U.S. Senate race, so he'll probably come back to come see Jason or his other good buddy Billy Long on the other side of the state. Billy Long, has anybody ever met Billy Long or heard about Billy Long? So my favorite Billy Long story real quick, he is a congressman in the 7th District in Southwest Missouri, and he's an auctioneer, which makes him kind of akin to like a car dealer. You know, he's kind of full of it all the time. And so Billy tells his story. He's been in several terms, and Josh Hawley wins. And the very first day Josh Hawley's in office, Billy calls up, and some intern answers Senator Hawley's office. He said, "This is Congressman Billy Long. Is Claire McCaskill there?" No, I'm sorry, Congressman. She didn't win. Okay, he hung up. Call back next day, same interns. "Hi, this is Congressman Billy Long. Is Claire McCaskill there?" No, Congressman. She didn't win. So okay, hung up. Calls her back the third day. It's Congressman Billy Long. Good Billy telling us his story. He said, and I thought this was kind of his Lincoln Day, joke. And so he says, I called back a third day and I asked this girl, this Congressman Billy Long, Claire McCaskill there? He said, then she got really aggravated. He said, no, I told you 3 days in a row. She didn't win. He goes, I know it. I just like hearing that. Well, the fast forward part of that story is I heard Billy give that and talk 2 or 3 times at different Lincoln Days in Southwest Missouri. And then I attended Lincoln Day with Josh Hawley, and I'm shooting the bull with him. How's everything going? And kind of Billy walks in the back of the room. Josh goes, oh, you wouldn't believe what Billy did to one of my interns. Apparently it was a true story. Billy Long, Jason Smith, Mike Parson, Gary Romine, Mike Henderson, Mike Kehoe, none of us are here without you. We can go around and meet all the people we want. We can go to the fanciest things we want to do. We can tell you how great we are. We can do all this kind of stuff. But nobody wins any of these races without people in this room. And I'm telling you, I have been all over the state this year. Like I said, I think this is 27, roughly 27, but at Northwest Missouri, Northeast Missouri, Central Missouri, Southwest Missouri, South Central Missouri, and crowds are motivated because guess what? All of a sudden, when we thought everything was okay, we saw New York lighting their buildings pink because they can kill babies. We heard the governor of Virginia say, keep the baby comfortable until we make a decision on what. And all of a sudden, people all across the United States, including in the heartland, start saying, we're not safe. There's evil people out there. And at Lincoln Day dinners all across this state, in an off-cycle election, we're seeing huge crowds like this because people understand our way of life is at risk. And we win elections one person at a time. We don't have the big groups of crazy radicals that the Democrats have behind them, the actors and all these nuts writing them big checks and all this stuff. We go out and we win elections in St. Francis County one door at a time, one neighbor at a time, one person that goes to church with us at a time. One kid who's another kid's playing basketball in some gymnasium. We're sitting on a stand talking to them. That's how we win. And somebody asked me in line, how do we get more young people involved? And that's how we win. We get more young people that are here. The people that are here start telling their kids and grandkids about what is at risk. And you guys are the ones that make the difference. And so I just want to tell you, because we don't have a national election, now Trump will come back to see Billy or Jason, I'm sure, and because they're such good buddies. But the fact of the matter is he's going to go to states where we really need some help to win. In Iowa, with Senator up there, and some other risk states and other places where we can win the House back, which I want him to do. We want him to do. Jason wants him to do. So it's up to us in 2020 to really get everybody re-energized. And Jason's right. The Democrats in Missouri, they aren't identifying with these people either. So the secret was I told in Howell County, and I was hoping when I was with Jason, nobody gasped or ran me out of the room. Our family, I was born and raised a Democrat. Many people in this room might have been too. But all of a sudden, what my mother told me happened back in the late 70s, early 80s is the Democrats left her. Now, it probably actually started with Roe v. Wade for her. But they left her. And Missourians don't identify with the Green New Deal. What Governor Parsons says about the Green New Deal is he's a cattle rancher like I am, and he has cows on his farms that make a new Green New Deal every day. And he says in Missouri, we're just smart enough not to step in it. We have an opportunity in the car business called market share. Republicans have an opportunity to talk to your friends and neighbors who say, you know, I voted Democrat before, I voted for Hillary, I voted for Barack, but now these new people, this AOC, all these crazy people, this is the time to talk to them about tax cuts, about regulatory reform, about the judges that are going on the bench for generations of good decisions. This is the time to talk to those folks because they're looking for a place to land, and the people in this room can do that. And I'm counting on you to go out and help us do that because there's absolutely no reason why we can't pick up some market share in this party. There's absolutely no reason why we can't grow the base of people who are concerned about their religious freedom, about their ability to protect innocent life, about our ability to defend our country. They're out there, folks, and so you have to be motivated. You have to get the young people motivated. You have to start talking to your friends and neighbors, and we can absolutely, positively guarantee you we can do this together. And it's going to be a fantastic year in 2020. I can just guarantee it because the people in this room, the people that I saw in Livingston County and in Lewis County and in Macon County and Dent County and Jasper County and Newton County, Greene County, where I've been, they want to make it happen. And so you're going to be motivated, they're going to be motivated, we're going to get out there and we're going to absolutely do this in 2020, but we have to have your help. And you have our commitment from our statewide, from our local elected officials, from our congressmen. We will help, we will do what we can to keep people motivated as we can. I so much appreciate you having me here. It was an honor for Kevin to ask me to do this. When he called me, you just don't say no to Kevin Engler. So I tried to, but it didn't work, and I kept going. So I'm absolutely happy to be down here again. Being in this area is fantastic. As I mentioned, one of my first phone calls I ever got as a salesman was from a guy down in Flat River. Remember those days? Named Kent Sism. And he said, you got an F-150 I need, and I'm going to give you a Ford Escort that I got. And I started dealer trading with Kent and met Mr. Sism and Charlie and the whole family. So I've been coming up and down these roads for a long time, and it's a pleasure to be down here now in this position and be able to talk to you in this regard. I am very humbled to be here. I am humbled to be in this position, and I will not forget the roots that brought me to the position I am in. Thank you so much for having you. God bless everyone in the room.
Yeah, you remember Dave Sinclair and his ads, and what was his tagline?
Thank you, and here's my address.
No. What was it?
Here's my address.
If it ain't right, we'll make it right. That was after you left? He left and then they made it right. I don't get that. I don't know. Congressman, Lieutenant Governor, here's your escape clause. Kevin Engler is next. So I'm giving you a chance. Ladies and gentlemen, County Clerk Kevin Engler.
Thank you. Thank you. Are you excited to be here? Yeah. Are you excited to be here? Yeah. This is exciting for me. We had this picture, and we had 2 rows. When I started this 20-something years ago, we had 1 person. It didn't take a lot of time to get that person together. But Mike, thank you for taking the call. I try to go through a lot of things of what the Lieutenant Governor really does. I know several lieutenant governors, and I know what they do. It involves this. It's a cell phone. They get up in the morning, they call the governor's mansion and say, is the governor alive? And if the answer is yes, they're off. So, totally capable of doing that too. And Jason, appreciate it. Known each other a long time. You said we were all friends. You know the difference between a friend and a real friend? A friend will help you move, but a real friend will help you move a body. So watch who you're calling real friends. My job tonight, they asked me to kind of wrap it up for us county-wise, because these guys have talked about some of the issues. But Dennis Gannon,
He got to introduce his spouse. He's also the county chief executive of Jefferson County. How many people? 250,000 people? Dennis was his father's. I was from Festus. He loaded groceries in our car. We lived 2 blocks from one of your stores up there, in the grocery store. He was his father's campaign manager. How many years was your father state senator? 12 years. Jefferson County, Democrat, great man. As you said, I was born and raised Democrat. A lot of us were born and raised Democrat. Your dad would have never agreed to a late-term abortion. He wouldn't have known what some of the issues the Democrats of today are trying to put over on us. That's why Elaine, I'll go back to when I recruited Elaine. And she, because everybody in Jefferson County was a conservative Democrat, and all the reps that I served with were pro-life, pro-gun, Democrats. And the paper asked her, how can you run as a Republican with your father-in-law, a Democrat senator here for years? She said, conscience. I cannot, as a Christian, run for a party that believes in things like gay marriage, abortion on demand, gun control, and just went through a whole list. And I imagine my parents, because I love them, they passed this past year, and for the first time, my dad picked up a Republican ballot to vote for Elaine Gannon, because his values were her values. And so what we have to do in St. Francis County, you said Joanne Emerson could barely win here. A lot of years didn't win here, even when she was almost unopposed. Nobody could have named her opponent because we had straight ticket voting, and 37% of the people in this county, when I ran for Senate, voted a straight Democratic ticket. And things have changed. But we have to tell people why they should be joining our ranks. They don't have to have Republican stamp on them, but they have to understand that, like single payer, to union members, I don't know if there's any union members right here, what is the most cherished, one of the most cherished a union member has? Cherish their benefits. Now they're talking about your insurance, which is what they term as Cadillac insurance, is going to be taken away. Now, I worked with seniors for 30-something years, over 65 years old. None of them ever bragged about their government-sponsored insurance. Now, my union clients would say, oh, I got great insurance. Well, because I had to figure that in. How's your insurance? You're going to have medical expense? No. They do not want your friends and neighbors who's always voted Democrat. They do not want the government to come in and say, I'm going to take your benefits away. The Green New Deal, you talked about that. Who? I'm old. I'm just older than you, Mike. That's great. 40 years ago in high school, my science teacher said, this is exact, all science agrees that pollution is clouding our atmosphere, and in 20 years, we're going to freeze to death. We're going to freeze. It's scientific fact. How could you argue against that? Of course, I was arguing back then. You know that for sure. We're going to freeze to death in 20 years. It's scientific fact. Now it's scientific fact. I'm not saying that we're not having some climate change, but I'm proud of this economy that's growing as we reduce our emissions. We've got plants like Wholesome over in St. Genevieve, the most energy efficient green plant in the world. And if it weren't for it getting approved before Obama's restrictions came in, it would have never happened. It would have been in South America. Now, I don't know about you, but I think their air in South America comes around our way every once in a while. China, India, all over the East, they are not gonna, they're gonna watch us belly up our economies if we would do this. They're not, and they're the ones that are polluting in greater degrees than anybody else. Why would they join us in economic disaster? They're not going to. No one asked about that. What about the other 80% of the environmental problems we have in this world? Are they going to just stop? No, we have to talk to our neighbors about that. Guns, Second Amendment, people around here, and I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyway. I said on the floor one time, because we were trying to talk about different areas, and I said I came from a different area. I said in Carter County, I represent Carter County. When a baby's born in Carter County, you get a birth certificate, a doe tag, and 2 cartons of Marlboro Light. It's different. People here, if you're going to stop hunting and say you're going to take their guns away from there, they may have been Democrats all their life, but this is a life-changing event for them. And after so much, eventually people are weighing in. That's why now you can win 65% of this county. So, how does this relate? We have races coming up in 2 years. We were able to fill with good candidates most of the races this last time. The ones that we didn't, we probably could have won. But I want to go over this. Elaine Gannon, term limited. Elaine represents the highest Democratic population of any Republican representative in the state. It will not be an easy job to retain that seat. We have State Senator Gary Romine. We're going to have a great candidate. 6 counties, 180,000 people. We have to make sure we get a good one. Now, I know that he's announced that he's looking at it. Mike Henderson, if he runs for state senate, we have to fill that spot. Now, we're going to redistrict in 2 years. And I understand that. My district, if you've ever seen that, they gerrymandered me, tried to get me out. I don't represent my backyard. Elaine does. It goes around my house so that they could put me over in St. Genevieve, hoping that I couldn't win in St. Genevieve. Redistricting is a lot better if people know these issues and you talk to them about them, because it won't matter where the district lines are. They will be voting for the conservative and the people that believe in life, the people that believe in the Second Amendment. It doesn't matter where the district is. All right, we have the sheriff coming up big, the biggest office as far as number of personnel in our county government. We have the coroner. Everybody says, well, the coroner, what are they doing? Coroner's got a lot of responsibility. It's the second highest paid job in the county. Base pay, and then gets paid per case, and it's a huge job. And the assessor. Now, I'm going to encourage you, we have to find great candidates for both of the commissioner, north and south, and these other county-wides. Harold, is there any more county-wide races that you're aware of?
The circuit clerk, probably.
The circuit clerk comes up this time? Or in?
2022.
That's in 22, okay. So this time, we have got half a dozen positions in this county.
Treasurer.
I think she just got elected unopposed, 22. See, we didn't field a candidate for treasurer. We didn't field a candidate for public administrator. We've got a great, the reason I didn't put that down, we've got a great candidate there. He's here tonight, and we appreciate that. But we have to find good candidates. Now, one of the things I did is I talked to several people, and I know there's somebody here looking at the sheriff's race. There might be more than one person. And also, somebody that I've gotten to work with over the county the last few months that's worked for the assessor for over 15 years and worked for a Republican assessor, a Democrat assessor, and I believe they will get both of them, both the Democrat and Republicans, backing when they run. And I think he's prepared to announce his candidacy tonight. I think he'll do a great job. His name's Eric DeGal from North County High School. And DESLOGE and Eric, come on up and just introduce yourself.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the kind words. Like Kevin said, my name is Eric DeGal, and for the past 15 years, I've worked in the St. Francis County Assessor's Office in a number of different roles for a number of different assessors, from Democrat Damon Black to Republican Kurt Ruger, and presently for Democrat Dan Ward. With Dan's impending retirement in 2020, it is my intention to seek the nomination for the position of St. Francis County Assessor. And I purposely chose this platform because with the support of this organization, what a better place than among a group of my fellow Republicans who share my conservative ideals. I've seen a significant amount of progress over my 15 years in the assessor's office and want to continue to help the county move forward in the right direction. My experience and the leaders I have been fortunate enough to work for have prepared me for this position, a position which takes an unwavering commitment to objectivity and fairness and a willingness to listen to, with an open mind, the St. Francis County community. My wife of 16 years, Diane, and I are proud to raise our 2 children, Kirsten and William, in St. Francis County, and I could not think of a more rewarding, fulfilling career than one in public service, serving the St. Francis County community as assessor. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself. I would be more than appreciative of your support in the 2020 election. If anyone has any questions for me, please come find me, introduce yourself, and I will be here for the rest of the evening. Thank you.
There may be somebody else that wants to make an announcement tonight. If not, we've got plenty of time. But this is a process. This is a big county. The county is growing. If you're going to run for a countywide office, you need to be setting the table now. When these guys get up, we are going to have a clean sweep statewide. There's no doubt in my mind. The president's going to win the state by over 20 points. But it's more important that we relate why we believe in conservative values to your friends and neighbors, because they will join us. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over with Louis. Thank you so much for your attention, and I appreciate it.
So Kevin, if we have somebody in the house that wants to run, what do they do?
They can talk to anybody on the committee.
All right, find the committee. Better yet, Kevin's office is on the 3rd floor of the courthouse. You get off the elevator and make a quick right. Okay? He's there all the time. There's nothing to do. He's reading the comics of the Post-Dispatch. I mean, anything else you gentlemen would like to bring up this evening? Chuck, you got what? Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Dotson.
Thank you all for being here, and thank Jason and Mike for coming. I tell you, it's a great day to be a conservative in St. Francis County, isn't it?
You bet.
Right. It's a great day to be a Missourian, and it's a great day to be an American. But I tell you, it's not a great day for America. You heard Congressman Smith talk about what's going on in Washington, D.C., and I can tell you, our beliefs and everything that we stand for is under attack. And you know, as Republicans, we stand for those things, those values espoused by Lincoln, that all men are created free and all men are equal. And what we believe is that life begins at conception, and that all of our rights are given to us by our Creator. I believe that when we stand for those things that are morally right, we can accomplish great things. Now, what I want to know is, how can we best protect and restore our values? Well, I think the number one thing we can do is send Donald Trump back to the White House.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to say is, we've got a conservative club here. It's got 32 members. 32 members that are committed to stand together to make that happen. That's not enough. Out of this room, there ought to be 100. And what I challenge these people to do is to get us up to 100 members. So if there's any of you out there that want to join us and help us, we'd be glad to have you.
By the way, on your table, I want to remind you again, is that envelope that says St. Francis County Conservative Club, and you can just fill out that information. And Dee and Charlotte, the 2 ex-Washington County women, they can assist you. Former Washington County women who came over to God's country to be a part of this. They did a terrific job. We really appreciate Ben, Chuck doing, and the whole committee doing everything that they did this evening. But in particular, more importantly, we appreciate your attendance on this Saturday. By the way, the Cardinals won, so yeah. Not that I know for sure. Some of those speeches, one of those deals and everything. I want again for you to thank Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, Congressman Jason Smith. Thank you. Good night. Drive carefully.